Hey, this is Pidge, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the final episode of the build diary for 3.17. Today I'm going to go over the long awaited min-max version of the build. If you've enjoyed this build diary then please show me some love with a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future. And as always, you can feel free to leave your feedback down in the comments below. There is a lot to go over in this guide and the build is very precise, so make sure you watch the whole video so you don't miss something important. With that out of the way, let's go and look at some numbers. We'll start over here on the left, look at some statistics. We have 40 million DPS per golem, that's Cyrus DPS. We are running 4 golems, an extremely decent effective hit pool and maximum hit taken. We are Chaos Resistance, we are CI, so we have 1 life. There's a little bit of spare mana here, about 40 mana, and I'm leaving that there because this is dependent on having perfectly rolled clusters, so if you're unable to get them to be rolled as good as these, then this spare mana I think will come in useful. We're rocking over 10k energy shield, which is massive. 23k evasion rating with 86% evade chance, 35k armor, 85% physical damage reduction, and 85% all res with immunity to chaos damage. Overall looking at about 62 million DPS for Cyrus. This was never going to become the powerhouse of 3.13 or 3.14, but this is the best available with the current state of the game, in my opinion. Checking out the items, the battery staff has already been crafted by at least one person in my Discord, so that is available, and it's actually not too bad. In 3.17 it's a bit easier than it was in previous post-harvest leaks. So you should definitely check out the video, which I've linked over here in the notes, how to craft the battery staff. And that will see you through how to get that staff. It should cost you between 50 and 100x, depending on how lucky you are. Also make sure to read the top comment in that video because there is a small update for 3.17. So for the staff we're looking at +2 level of all spell skill gems, +3 to level of all physical spell skill gems, auras from your skills grant 4% increased damage to you and allies, which is a redeemer mod, and then a multi-mod benchcraft for minion attack speed and minion damage. For the helmet, you're looking for a Hubris Circlet or as high ES base as you can get, Hubris obviously being the best. We're throwing all budget out the window here because this is the min-max version, but get as close to these as possible. You do need to switch the enchant because we're using Grace with Enlighten, so Purity of Fire 45% or Purity of Ice or Purity of Lightning will do, so you've got 3 chances there to get an enchant that will work. The big thing here is you're looking for the synthesized implicit of 15% increased effect of non-curse auras from your skills. As much energy shield as possible, intelligence is always nice for mana and energy shield, and a craft on there for +1 level of socketed AoE gems. This will take quite a bit of spamming because all that's really needed to craft this helmet is the Deafening Essence of Loathing. That guarantees the 10% increased mana reservation efficiency of skills stat that you can see here on the helmet. So spamming this until you get really good energy shield and then hoping for the free slots for the other items. Still running Sakawal's Nest, it provides us a massive DPS boost, sorts out a lot of our attributes issues, and also gives us more mana reservation. The big thing here is you're looking for a +1 to level of socketed gems. Because we're moving our Golem 6-link over to our staff, this now boosts our Enlighten by another level, which is really important. Here for the gloves, we're looking at some Syrian Exarch gloves, Sorcerer gloves, with the implicit of minions deal increased damage. The maximum roll for this is 29%, so try and get that as high as possible. And then you're looking for as much energy shield intelligence as possible with an open prefix to benchcraft minions deal 20% increased damage. The dexterity on these gloves is not important, so don't try and roll specifically dexterity. I am still going to recommend Doriani's Delusion Sorcerer boots because we were just running so short on gem sockets that having the Purity of Lightning given to us from the boots, it just made more sense in the long run. So extremely cheap. Ashes of the Stars, still using this with Champion of the Cause allocated. Make sure you get the top roll on the increased reservation of skills, and also as high a roll as possible on the quality of all skill gems. For the unset rings, two very similar rings here. These are going to be extremely difficult to craft, but these were achieved post-harvest, I think in 3.15. I actually made one myself, so I know they can be done. We're talking ideal world here, so ideal world, this is what you are looking for. You want an unset ring with minions deal 35% increased damage, which is a delve mod, and then crafting the rest of the rings with as much energy shield as possible, intelligence if you can get it, and we want one with aspects of the avian, and we want another one with shock nearby enemies for 4 seconds when you focus. If you've never used focus before, it's a skill that's just granted to you. It doesn't cost any mana, and you can press it whenever it's not on cooldown. This will only be used to burst down bosses. Still using Darkness Enthroned in the belt slot. There just isn't a better belt out there. 2 Ghastly Eye Jewels, as good as possible. This has got a pretty low energy shield roll, but the minion damage is insane. So you're looking for minions deal increased damage if you've used a minion skill recently, and a high tier minions deal flat physical damage with at least a tier 2 energy shield, but obviously looking for a tier 1. Minions leech damage is going to keep your minions alive. They're dealing so much damage that one hit will recharge their life completely. So you're looking for 2 of those, as good as possible. Moving on to the flasks, because we're not using the Watcher's Eye anymore, we're going to want to run a quartz flask. This makes our life much easier, because we need to run through packs and then the golems and the minions then clean up after us. It's important we're not getting stuck on those packs. So here we've chosen for a quartz flask of the iguana for the bleed, jade flask of impala, granite flask of armadillo, and quicksilver flask of the cheetah. The suffixes on all of these can be mixed around, so the granite doesn't have to have armor, it could have evasion, and the jade flask could have the armor, etc. That should make it easy to find some on the market or craft them yourself. Bottled Faith is in here because Consecrated Ground is OP, and at the bottom there I've crafted all of the buffs that are being given by our Animate Guardian, which I will go over later. Now, looking at the tree, this is a level 100 tree, and I don't think you'll find this possible if you are not level 100. I've switched back to a 2 cluster layout because I'm now using voices. These are about 25x each on the market right now. And these are just the most efficient way of fitting in 6 of these small cluster jewels. It also frees up a lot of points, so we can take things like the extra Spectre, lots of minion damage here, minion damage, and some energy shield. So all in all, I found this to be the most efficient path. Large clusters are voices with 3 passives. I purposely haven't put the 1 passive in there because I think that's a little bit too far. So 3 passives will work. And you're looking for 6 cluster jewels, all 35%. All as much energy shield as possible. Intelligence is great, and you might need some elemental resistance. So what I do suggest is getting at least one that has elemental resistance so that you can swap that out using harvest. You can see here that it's quite tight on fire resistance and cold resistance. So I think it's just useful to have at least one of them where you can balance out your reses if need be. So you can see here I've got a bit of a mix between attributes and elemental resistance. So they are perfectly rolled, and it's going to take you some time to craft those up. Looking at the other jewels in the build, we have our Thread of Hope here, which is medium ring, and we're using that just so we can pick up Golem Commander. We don't have to path up there, we don't have to use Breath Stealers. I'm also taking this mana node here because that will, if I take that off, we're at 17 mana, so we're actually under mana. And that's with perfectly rolled clusters. So I find this node really, really useful. Over here we have the Anima Stone, and you'll notice that none of these jewels are specially corrupted with 2% increased reservation. And I've also done that on purpose as well, so nobody has to be faffing about trying to roll that implicit or spending an absolute fortune getting a gem, which isn't necessary as long as you spend more time rolling your clusters. Primordial Might, Primordial Eminence, Intuitive Leap, and Primordial Eminence. No changes in the Ascendancy, we're still taking Commander of Darkness, into Mindless Aggression, Unnatural Strength, and Bone Barrier. This node down here might seem a bit odd, but it's necessary so that we can hit 85% all res. If I take this off, you'll see we drop down to 84%. So getting that 5% increased effect of non-curse auras is extremely important. And remember, that is with using the helmet as well, which is 15% increased effect. So this really does just tip us over the edge. For the masteries here on the tree, we're only taking 4. We have minions have 100% increased critical strike chance over here. Discipline has 25% increased mana reservation on there. Auras from your skills have 15% increased effect on you, and 15% increased mana reservation of skills. Because we're not using Alpha's Howl anymore to get the freeze resistance or freeze immunity, I recommend getting the Brine King. And then the other one doesn't really matter. As I've been playing, Ignite's been bothering me a bit because we're not ailment immune, so I've just chosen Aberrath there, but you can choose whichever one you want. Okay, moving on to the skills. We have Bone Armor, which should always be pressed down. That button should just be kept down all the time. It's on a small cooldown, but that'll be up most of the time. And that is given to us by our Ascendancy. Carrion Golems, 21-23 Carrion Golem. Awaken Multi-Strike, Awakened Brutality, Awakened Minion Damage, Awakened Melee Fizz, and Increased Critical Damage at 21-23. Brutality here actually gives us Crush, and Melee Physical Damage gives us Intimidate, which add quite a bit of DPS to the build. So make sure you level these up to level 5. I have Flame Dash in one ring, and Anomalous Assassin's Mark in the other ring, taking full advantage of using Ashes of the Stars. Convocation is unlinked in the gloves, and that's because we're using Precision, Awakened Generosity, and Dread Banner as the other 3 link in the gloves. If you can get a Generosity 6, then great. Divergent Precision, because we're not bothered about area of effect, because we're giving that to our minions, and Divergent Dread Banner. For the Animate Guardian, you want a Divergent Animate Guardian, 21-23 Ray Spectre, 21-23 Ray Zombie, 21-23 Feeding Frenzy. Having the level 21 Spectre and level 21 Zombies allow us to actually pushes us past the threshold to be able to use 4 Spectres and 9 Zombies. If you're having any issues with survivability of your Spectres or your Zombies and it's annoying you, then you can turn off Feeding Frenzy, sacrifice some DPS and put Meat Shield on there instead. In the helmet, I'm running Purity of Fire, Purity of Ice, Vitality and Clarity, all max level. Make sure these are all 21, with Clarity being the least important. In the chest piece, which remember is +1 Sacral Walls, we have Divergent Determination, Val Haste, Val Grace, Divergent Pride, Enlighten level 4, and Val Discipline. Aspect of the Avian is coming from our ring, Vulnerability is coming from the Animate Guardian, and Purity of Lightning is coming from Doriani's boots. In the notes section here, I've actually written down all the items required for the Animate Guardian, which Spectres that I would recommend using, and also a link to the video on how to craft the battery staff. So for the Animate Guardian, we want to be using a helmet with chaos resistance. Nearby enemies take 9% more physical damage. Flat life really isn't useful on the Animate Guardian at this point. Percent life would be. On the boots, you're looking for an implicit, which is dropped brittle ground whilst moving, and chaos res. The chest piece, we want apply additional curse and percent max life and chaos res. For the gloves, you're looking for a corruption with vulnerability 48% increased effect on hit with chaos resistance if possible. And for the weapon, we're using the Kingmaker. For the Spectres, we are going to be using one Carnage Chieftain and one Host Chieftain. Now that we can boost our Clarity up to level 21, this is going to ensure that they can generate frenzy charges and power charges constantly. So these will feel much, much better now. My options for the 3rd and 4th Spectres, I'm going to just leave down to you, but here are the ones that are on offer. The Demon Harpy can give some extra physical damage taken for enemies, which is nice. Syndicate Operatives are the ones that I would probably use, and I would use 2 of them. That's because they will actually provide some range to your clear, and the last time I was playing this build in 3.14, I actually found them really good once you got to the min-max stage. Pale Seraphine's also an option which provides more damage, and the Arena Champion if you're looking for some more defense. And that is my build wrap up. This is where I would be heading if I was continuing to play the League. The League is finished for me, and I'm going to move back over to Rust and maybe try some Lost Ark as well. Elden Ring, potentially, we'll see. I hope you guys have enjoyed this build. Looking at the Discord, you know, the feedback has been quite mixed, to be honest, but there are so many moving parts that people don't really tend to watch videos all the way through anymore, and with so many moving parts, you miss one and it can really destroy areas that are very important. Areas that you think are small are actually integral to the build. So I find that happening more and more as people pay less attention to the detail and just want to look at the POB. But you know, that comes with the territory. I think this version is going to be an absolute monster, but sadly we will never reach the levels of 3.13, 3.14. Either way, have fun making it. I hope quite a few of you do realise this, and I get to see it in action. I will see you guys next league. Peace out.